What is up, everybody? It is Sunday. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Welcome to another round of chaos. You
Hey, what
got
we got?
Doc, you got the King James.
Oh, we're going to smooth tunes tonight.
We're going with a little bit of smooth tunes in the background. We're going to see what happens with that one.
Nice. New twist.
Everybody,
Don't fall
feel
asleep
free to
on
go
us
ahead
now.
and tune on in.
Tune in, but don't go to sleep.
Tune in, but don't tune out. You got your evening DJs coming to you live. 66.6 FM.
So nice.
All right. So last month, we were in West Virginia, Mountain Mama. This month, we are in Arkansas. We're going to be covering a lot of things. I have no songs that say Arkansas, so I got nothing to go off of here. I got nothing. I'll try to find some for next show. These are a lot of stories and a lot of myths that my grandmother, who was from a little city in Arkansas that actually had no name. It was a
the city
tiny
that
little
had.
town. Well, it
No
was more
name.
like four houses. It was four houses in a little area. There really was no name to the place. But yes, these were a couple of the stories that I was growing up on, and it was just really kind of cool to start researching these things because these are things I had heard a lot about. And today we're going to cover one that was really kind of interesting. Um, Grandma used to tell us all the time about the White River Monster and its time in the river and all the cool things that it was doing
We're not doing.
or not doing. Um,
So we're covering. Uh, yeah, we're doing this. The White River Monster. Uh-oh.
anyways, so we're talking about the White River Monster of Newport, Arkansas. Tammy says hello.
Hey,
She's
Tammy.
tuning in to she's tuning in to 66.6
Uh-oh.
FM.
And we got
We need
Heidi
better.
in here.
We got a Heidi in here. All right, so the White River Monster. Uh, it actually goes all the way back to the
Can't tell
Civil
what that
War.
is. All right, Civil War.
Yeah, we're going all the way back to the Civil War. We'll bring this one up here.
I
So
like that
back in
one.
the Civil War, yeah, the Civil War. Some believe the White River Monster may have affected the Civil War. The river was used for transportation, and the monster was supposed to be responsible for overturning a boat. So it was a big munitions boat with a lot of TNT and stuff, and it was going up the river. So they believe that because this thing had ended up sinking the boat, of course, that's not a Civil War era boat, but it's kind of cool. It's an interesting thing. Um, some people believe that the White River Monster is fully responsible for helping the North win from sinking a Confederate boat. Um,
It's prejudice.
but the prejudice. So the sightings of the monster actually began in 1915 when it was more on a recorded situation. July 1st of 1915, the owner of a plantation near the river saw the monster. He reported having a gray skin as wide as a car and 3 cars long. As the news spread, construction of a rope net began, but ended due to lack of money and materials. The first week in 1937, recreational fishermen noticed that they were finding it hard to land many fish, and the creature was spotted again and reported to Bamlet Bart Bateman, a nearby another plantation owner, who later confirmed the sighting, describing it as having the skin of an elephant, 4 or 5 feet wide by 12 feet long, with the face of a catfish, lolling on the surface. Feeling the creature was a threat to his crops, he intended to blow up the eddy where the creature was spotted with TNT, but area authorities denied necessary permission.
Hmm.
So, the guy wanted to go in and blow up the thing because it was messing with his crops. They ended up saying no. A
Did
minor
what?
media sensation. What's that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. A minor media sensation resulted in visitors from across the nation, some bringing cameras, explosives, and a machine gun, with no more sightings were made when a plan to capture it with a giant net failed and when the deep sea diver failed to find the creature. Bateman was thought to have created a hoax despite over 100 confirmed sightings recorded during the short period of excitement. So what you got is eventually they get this deep sea diver
Hmm.
back in 37, and he goes down onto the river bottom looking for it. But every time he went down, he was having issues with breathing tanks, flotation, the weights. Sometimes he was too buoyant, couldn't get all the way down to the bottom of the river. So they found absolutely nothing. The White River Monster was sighted again in the summer of 1971. That year, eyewitnesses who encountered the creature described it as the size of a boxcar with bone protruding from its forehead. It looked as if the thing was peeling all over, but it was smooth type of skin or flesh, said one, and made strange noises that sounded like a combination of a cow's moo and a horse's neigh. Other accounts of the White River Monster described 3-toed tracks 14 inches in length on Towhead Island leading into the river through a path of bent trees and crushed bushes. 1973, the Arkansas state legislators signed into a bill by Senator Robert Harvey creating the White River Monster Refuge along the White River. The area is located between a southern point of the river known as Old Grand Glaze and a northern point of White River known as Rosie. It is illegal to harm the monster inside the refuge.
God. Of all the cryptids, there's a sanctuary for this White River Monster. Nope. Nope.
So I remember Grandma talking about this thing,
Mm-hmm. What don't
and
Grandma have to say?
well, good old Grandma used to say that there would be a fish that was as big as a whale in the White River, and then if you went down there and you went and tried to fish, hopefully, apparently, her daddy. I'm gonna have to. My Arkansas accent sucks. So anybody from Arkansas, I'm sorry, it sucks. But her daddy used to always take her down to the White River to do any fishing. They were hoping that one day they'd get old, the White River Monster, and they'd reel that thing up and then they'd be able to eat for days. But they never did. Grandma used to talk about seeing the 3-toed footprints in the mud on a few occasions. She never saw it herself, but apparently there were other people around the area who had seen it. Apparently, great grandpa was one of those guys that went tried to shoot it, take a look for it. Unfortunately, I don't know about that one because these are tall tales. God rest my grandma's soul, but it's kind of hard to tell what was folklore.
Truth. Yeah.
Well, I mean, everybody from Appalachia and the Ozarks, they're big on oral stories. So, grandma's stories were always real big about these things.
Highly
There was a
exaggerated.
some were exaggerated, probably. I mean, they say this thing was pretty big. Um, You know, I mean,
mean, for the
for the
size of
government to
it,
lay out a
go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Aha, yeah. So I was saying, for the size of this thing, I mean, what? The length of 3 boxcars, the width of one. I mean, that's pretty substantially huge. I mean, how deep is that river, first of all? Is it, I mean,
I believe that river is probably about 40 feet deep around that bend.
okay. I mean, I would think
Because
something
I mean,
that big in an area like in that area would be difficult to, hide.
well, it's one of those things that it's not our place to say yay or nay,
Yeah.
but we are basically just simply putting out a story. And since we're doing states, this was kind of one of those, sitting around late at night at grandma's house, sitting around a campfire.
Doing a little moonshine in the process.
I was 4.
Well,
You think grandma
grandma
would have given
wasn't.
me moonshine at 4?
Hey, you never know back then. Make it strong.
Our research agent has escaped their MIB encampment. They've escaped from Area 51. And they say Arkansas was underwater in the Paleozoic. So if this thing is an old dinosaur, it's kind of interesting that it was still kicking around. But I mean, here's the thing. We have the coelacanth. I remember growing up, the coelacanth that's down in South America, everybody said it's extinct. They're prehistoric fishes. We don't have them anymore. And then somebody dug one out of the Amazon River, I believe it was, in late 70s. And now they're like, oh yeah, we pull these things out of the water all the time. The living fossil fish. So if this is a holdover from the age of dinosaurs,
Oh man.
of course, I mean
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're going down that rabbit hole.
Wow, earlier than last week. Okay.
So,
All
oh
right.
yeah, they do have a name for this one because we got Nessie, we got all the creatures always have a name. Sasquatches, Bigfoot, and
This one's
they called it Whitey.
Whitey. Yeah.
Whitey
And why do they call it Whitey?
because he lives in the White River near Newport, Jackson County, Arkansas.
Okay, so they have a sanctuary for this thing. Do they
Yep.
actually have festivals for
I do not believe they do, but it's a state park for this fish.
I can't believe. It slays me that they had nothing better to do than to name a state park as a sanctuary for something that is not even be real.
Well, the thing is, we have over 100 confirmed sightings of the thing. I'll put that
Confirmed
back up there.
sightings. I mean, 100
Confirmed sightings, but that was pre 1971. And in 71, they were talking about how it looked like it was.
Well, in 71, didn't they say they added something like it had like a horn to it? So, I mean, the description.
Yeah, they had a horn, but I mean, that could have also been one of the big teeth, growing through like a pig does. You gotta cut the tusk or something, and the skin was a little flaky. So maybe this thing is ancient. It's old. It was on its last dying flippers and legs because apparently it can walk on land too. So
Well, I tell you what,
maybe
though. I'll tell you what. From last week's cryptid to this one doesn't give me nightmares like the one last week.
Well, that's the interesting thing that we're finding out as we start doing the states is that you've got the cryptids that have, hundreds, thousands of confirmed sightings that, are also being seen in other places. I mean, you've got a fish in a river that is quite a ways away from the ocean. I mean, you got to go way up the Mississippi, and then you got to branch off onto the White River. So, some people, and since we do like to throw the flip side to everything in, biologist Roy Mackal thinks that it's an elephant seal.
Yeah, I think
And that is what people are.
that. And didn't his theory say something about it could have came down the Mississippi into the White River?
Yeah, it was an elephant seal had gone too far up and then kept going. I mean, now guaranteed, of course, we have sea lions that go all the way down the Columbia River to the Dalles Dam. Jade says that's what he picked over a sturgeon. Oh, Jade, it gets even better. So first of all was an elephant seal. Joe Nickel said that no, it's out of the range of elephant seals. And his thing was, Joe Nickel's conclusion was it was a manatee that had gotten lost from Florida.
His GPS was off target.
A manatee.
Yeah, okay. That's a far-reaching. Yeah. Okay.
Now, there are a large fish currently in that river that has a lot of teeth. The White River has been known to pull out 230-pound, 8-foot gar. So it's a large fish, similar to a sturgeon, but has looks like a crocodile mouth on it with a big, long teeth. So we do have a large fish with big teeth.
So a possible misidentification.
Possible misidentification. Yep. Yeah, it's an alligator gar, is what they're called. And some of these weigh 230, with the biggest alligator gar being pulled out of the river at 250 pounds. So, I mean, we do have a large fish that matches the picture. I should have put an alligator gar picture up.
Okay, so
we don't have a sturgeon. Sturgeon's mouth is on the bottom. A gar has the teeth. So we kind of have a match here. So I know that there have been some big fish in the Columbia. They've ended up pulling out some giant sturgeon that aren't, well, not nearly as big as 3 cars.
Right. Okay, but then explain to me the tracks, the prints.
Apparently, it had 3 toes, and the prints were supposed to come out of the river and then cross a little sandbar off to another side of the river.
So it's going to just mosey out of the river, take a little walk, and get back in.
Well, I do know that there are the fish that walk across the land. I mean, you've got the eels that tend to, I don't think they're eels, they're scuppers or something like that, that'll flip-flop across. But maybe it was an elephant seal, because they have big flippers and big toes. So, I mean, you never know about these things.
All right. Well,
Um,
okay.
all right, so I got some other stuff from 1912 here. Um, December 1912, an Arkansas newspaper reported that timber workers floating rafts of cedar on the White River below Branson, Missouri, had seen something large and strange on the bottom. At first, they thought it was a boulder. Then they became convinced it was a gigantic turtle. They estimated its weight at 300 pounds. Reported the big river monster created quite a sensation among the sportsmen of Branson and Tom Bernard, one of the local anglers, organized a party to go and capture it. As it was impossible to gig the turtle, they took a number of strong ropes, which they were endeavored to loop over it and land it in the manner. So now we've got them saying in 1912 it's a turtle. So if it's a giant snapping turtle, there would be our three toes. There's our three toes.
Yeah, but
But then it doesn't explain the teeth, doesn't explain the long
Well,
body, because if it's a giant snapping turtle,
yeah,
um,
I was gonna say, never seen this large snapping turtle. 3 boxcars in length and 1 width. Never.
well, I know that West Virginia had a two-headed snapping turtle that was the size of a Volkswagen Bug. We didn't cover that one. We kind of moved on from it because it was only seen twice. And it was like, yeah, it's a two-headed snapping turtle the size of a Volkswagen Bug. West Virginia ain't nowhere close to Arkansas, really, for a giant snapping turtle to swim that far. And this only has one head, not two.
Fair enough.
I know I'm picking up all these weird cryptids that are just kind of out there. Like I said, this was one of those stories that Grandma would tell us kids that, don't go down to the White River, otherwise Whitey would get your toes. And, you know, could have been a fact that, it's just, don't go to the river, you'll step on broken glass. The folk tales that parents always seem to tell people.
I would have gone
Um,
anyway, just for the hell of it. Just because she told me not to go down there, I would have done it. I would have gone down there just to see if I could see Whitey in the damn river or up on the shore.
all right, so we do have back in 1937. So we're going back a little bit more detail on stuff. W.E. Penix, state toll bridge collector, directed the net making activities because this was back when they were making the net. Ordered to be constructed 40 feet long and 15 feet wide with meshes of 6 or 8 inches. Estimated it would require a week or 10 days to complete the net, and said a convoy of motorboats would sweep the eddy with it. So this thing's just kind of hanging out in the elbow of a river. It's just an eddy. Seems to like to hang out there. That would be more of a sturgeon, because sturgeons seem to like to hide in an eddy a little bit more. 6 days later, news went out over the Associated Press that a river bottom walker was going after the monster. Hired by the local Chamber of Commerce, Charles B. Brown of the U.S. Engineers Office in Memphis reported that he did not expect to encounter anything dangerous in the White River, but would carry along a giant harpoon just in case. He was convinced the monster was a fish of some sort, most likely a giant catfish. So now we got another description of a giant catfish, a giant turtle, elephant seal, a manatee,
A catfish.
catfish, giant catfish. Now I know they have giant catfish down there in the south, and they get to be fairly big, but not the size of 3 car lengths, and they tend to not see anything.
This is just screaming nothing but misidentification of something.
Yes, but it's entertaining, and that's what it was for us kids. It was entertaining. It was
Obviously, you
bringing
guys
back.
didn't have nothing to do back in the day. You had to listen to old grandma tell stories.
We're back in the 70s, man. There ain't no internet. TVs only had 3 or 4 stations and they shut down at midnight.
Right.
Grandma had to do something.
Yeah, let's keep the kids entertained. Give them some white lies.
All right. So we got Mr. Brown, and he's down there doing the dives. Things did not go well for Brown. 3 times he went into the 60-foot deep water, so it's 60 foot in the eddy. I'm sorry, I said 40. By the Bateman farm, he got stuck in deep silt and had to be pulled out with ropes. Then there was a problem with an air valve that caused his rubberized dive suit to fill with air and send him bobbing to the surface. The third time wasn't a charm either. After an hour of poking around in the weeds and mud on the river bottom, Brown was pulled to the surface to report that he had seen only a catfish and a dead log. So our diver goes down 3 times and is having issues. Probably the most interesting thing seen in the river that weekend, in fact, was not the White River Monster, but the homemade dive apparatus of a local man named David Smythe. Apparently inspired to innovation, he built his own diving gear from an old-fashioned gasoline tank, rubber hose, and bicycle pump manned from a boat. He had no more luck than his professionally equipped rival. So this was a thing. This was a big thing. People were going in. They were diving. Some guy made his own dive suit to go to the bottom of a 60-foot river. So I mean, this is kind of making national news. It's kind of big for the 30s. We're because we're not in the Area 51. We're not in the Roswell. That was on the 50s and the 60s. We're in 30s. It's boring. There ain't no internet. Yeah, there ain't not much of nothing because there was not a lot of roads in and out of Arkansas, and it was pretty desolate area. Over the years that followed, sightings of the monster reported now and then, but failed to generate the publicity of the 1937 episode. The most widely reported of these began in 1971 when Newport resident David Jenks reported seeing a large creature in the river that he described as being gray and long with a pointy bone protruding from its head. He thought it weighed around 1,000 pounds. So now we've got 200 pounds, we got 230, 250, 280, 300. Now we're up to 1,000. So if it was a real fish, and it's a leftover of the dinosaur age, it's growing and growing and growing, and now it's 1,000 pounds, and now that tooth is going right through its head. And now remember, I didn't say this was a real thing. We're not always going to have full belief in this one, but like I said, this was a great story to hear when you're 4 years old. And yeah, it's an interesting story.
The elusive unicorn.
Let me see. June 28th, 1971. A man named Cloyce Warren produced a photograph of the monster, extremely fuzzy. It appears to show some kind of hump floating in the water. The search was on once again. So we got a little bit more. The next major development came on July 5th. When the county sheriff reported finding strange footprints on Towhead Island just north of Bateman Eddy. He said they were 14 inches long, 8 inches wide, with 3 long toes or claws in the spur of some kind projecting from the heel. So now we've got a fish, and now it has claws, and it has a spur off the back of the heel like a rooster. Yeah, I don't get that one.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because the description continues on. Because, like, if we're talking about Bigfoot, everyone's got a basic description that stays the same. Sometimes the face moves. It's got a human-like nose. It has a squashed gorilla-style nose. They come in black. They come in red hair, black hair, red hair, blonde hair, strawberry blondes. Um, Mothman is always the same, black leather wings, glowing red eyes. Um, our good friend, the White River monster, Whitey, is got. I lost track of how many animals it's supposed to look like: a turtle, a manatee,
Yeah.
an elephant
Oh,
seal,
let's see.
an alligator gar.
Yeah.
In 1973, the Arkansas legislature approved a resolution designating a stretch of the White River from Newport to Possum Grape as a White River monster refuge. Possum Grape, that's a place. Possum Grape.
Awesome.
Possum.
Great. I get.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
It is unlawful to kill or otherwise harm the monster within the limits of the refuge. The 1912 sighting of the lumbermen working on the river south of Branson of a creature they described as a gigantic turtle is definitely worthy of note. So too is the 1971 report of David Jenks of a creature with a pointy bone projecting from its head as well. The other eyewitness reports that describes the monster as a large hump with its head hidden underwater or having a jagged spine. Now, this one, I got a question. And I try to play both sides of the issue, but the fact of the matter, this creature has gone through several different
Variations.
identifications, creatures that it may or may not be.
I got it. He's got an identity crisis.
This poor thing just has no clue what it is. Would I like to go to the park and look at the river? Sure, why not? But honestly, I again, it's not our job to say fake, fact, or fiction. But
Right.
I'm going to say this just because of how everything changes and how everything's gone through processes of, I mean, if it's a giant turtle, okay, yeah, if a turtle's left alone and it's not messed with, it could get fairly big.
Yep.
Not 3 boxcars length. I mean, that's kind of huge.
I'm just
I mean,
trying
just
to
going off.
imagine that. It's hard to imagine.
Well, if we look at the Columbia River and we do like a side-by-side comparison, the Columbia River, we've had whales come up as far as Portland. So we've had humpback whales that will come in through Astoria. And, a couple were sighted last summer, right off the banks here of St. Helens. They were swimming up the river. And then they got turned around and boats got out there and got the whales to turn around and go back the way they came. So, I mean, it could be something, but I mean, that St. Helens and Portland is closer to the ocean than Arkansas is.
Right.
So, unsure on that one. If anybody that's happened to be watching, you want to throw in some comments, some questions, what are your 2 cents on this one? I mean, I'm just repeating myself at this point, but that was always one of the things. This was before my brother was born, and we're apparently I was having a hard time sleeping. And so,
Oh, this was a bedtime story then. That's what it amounts
These are bedtime stories. Why do you think I am the way I am? Is because this was bedtime stories.
All right, I got you now. I got it
Other
figured out.
other kids grew up. Yeah. Why I'm insane? Yes.
So they grew up. Other kids
Other
grew up
kids grew
normal.
up.
You didn't. Mhm.
I grew up learning about wood boogers, White River Monster, skinwalkers, things that go
Mothman.
bump in the night. For
I get
me, I
it.
mean,
So,
everyone asked me.
I get it.
It
You
was
grew up with all that.
yeah.
I was on the normal side. Okay, that explains everything right now.
It does. It actually explains everything. My interests in cryptids and ghost stories and everything else. Um, I mean, grandma was a hell of a woman. She was a storyteller. I mean, because again, you got Arkansas, you got way back in the day before internet, before radio, before anything. You're living in a little log cabin in the middle of absolutely nowhere. You're going to go back to being a storyteller, and you're going to have those oral traditions, those oral stories that are passed from, generation to generation to generation. I mean, the Native Americans did it. That was the big thing. Is that nighttime you tell your history through, you know, stories around the campfire, and you tell the next generation, and that generation will pass it on. The Vikings did it. People from the
And each
Ozarks, that was a big thing.
and each generation adds a little something to it. So in the end,
Yep.
it loses its originality.
Right. So, like, what we've got here is we've got it starting from the Civil War, and it's described as a big fish. It doesn't say if it rammed the boat or the boat hit it and sank, but somewhere along the lines, a big object hit a boat and the boat sank, and the supplies that were going for those troops didn't get there. Threw that one up. Boom. But I don't know.
Dude, that one looks like it's got two horns on it.
Yeah, a little bit. But
Somebody said,
yeah. So is it this giant fish? Is it an elephant seal? Is it a turtle? Is it an
It's
alligator gar?
it's Nessie in disguise. Yeah.
But that's the entire thing. Is since we're dealing with Arkansas, unless we've got some actual a little bit more um, details that stick to itself. Because I mean, this is a good story. We're going to go hands down. This is a good story.
Oh. Yeah. That's
Because of the
right,
fact
Joe.
that it keeps alternating descriptions on what it is. I was always told that it was a giant fish with lots of teeth, and if you got too close to the water, Whitey would grab your toes and pull you in.
Hmm.
Now, mind you, I've never been to Arkansas. I'm Oregon born and bred. Been raised here, but Grandma used to take us down to the beach on sunny days during the summer. And that was primarily when we heard about Whitey. Was if we were getting too close to the river, she'd say, I'm back in Arkansas on the White River. If you got too close to the river, you got too close to that water and you weren't paying attention, Whitey would come out and grab you. And then as kids would be like, Grandma, who's Whitey? Well, let me tell you. Whitey is this giant fish with these giant teeth. And it comes up out of the river and it starts grabbing people. If people ain't paying attention, people get too close to the water and they're not paying attention, Whitey will grab them, drag them in. But of course, I mean, most parents or grandparents, you're going to tell your kids something about, oh, I don't do that. That's bad. You're going to get hurt.
Right.
But because of the fact that she was from Arkansas, everything has a bigger story. I got my love for storytelling from my grandmother, actually. So it's like, as you said, you got to add a little bit of flavor to it.
To make
It's
it
just
your own.
to make it your own and spice it up.
Yeah. See.
It's like when we're doing our little ghost walks and we either have to tone it down or we got to spice it up for the people.
Yep.
But see, those stories I can back up once I find those newspapers again with the
Oh
articles.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you're really good at that there, Docky. I'm not, but hey. Oh, dude. Okay. All I want to do now is just shoot that thing in the head.
Join in the hunting party and go looking for Whitey.
Yeah, it's that time.
Don't worry, everybody in the audience. Eventually, we will have a little bit more of a blockbuster show.
Hey, at least this is a little bit better than last week, man. We hit the rabbit hole, and we were gone. At least it's a little more.
I don't know if I've got a rabbit hole theory to this one.
I'm just kind of going. I'm just gonna say on the assumption that it's totally misidentification. I mean, I could see where you said earlier the alligator gar. I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they're in the river.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sports fish.
Right.
So
I mean,
and
I
we
could
and
see
we,
that.
Well, I mean, if we go back to the 30s and we look at, again, comparing the Columbia River with the White River, back in the 20s and 30s, they were pulling out giant salmon that were like 5-6 feet long,
If not longer.
if not longer. I'm just going to baseline, just 5 or 6 feet long. You see these old pictures of a guy sitting with his catch, and it's a huge fish that almost dwarfs the guy or is dwarfing the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is a fish, and we're back to 1912, 1930s, this could have been an alligator gar that had survived longer than anything else. Got to an incredible size, because I mean there is one report of the skin looking like it's flaking off, which does sound like salmon after they spawn. Their skin gets all splotchy, starts to look like it's coming off, and then the fish die after mating and getting rid of their eggs, and then the fish die. Yeah. So maybe Whitey was once upon a time a very large alligator gar, abnormally long, lived longer than it should have. And then by the time they saw it in 37 and it looked sickly, maybe he was sickly.
Maybe he's dead. That's why you don't hear or see any more reportings or sightings.
Well, if he's an alligator gar that's of unusual size, and at that point he's already dying, we know that the diver was getting stuck in the silt on the bottom of that eddy. So an eddy is just a current going around and around and around. So if it was a giant alligator gar who was sickly, got caught in the eddy, died, stank, got into the silt, then the silt would just cover up all the bones and everything else. And of course, it's not going to last long on the bottom. You got your crawdads, otherwise known as crayfish. You got other scavengers of the deep that are going to come along and get it. So maybe Whitey was a real fish, and no, everybody was just confusing it for other things. It died. It got old. It sank. And 73, they said, well, we're just going to go ahead and make this a national park, and everything's protected right here. And because I mean, Washington State has said you can't go out killing Bigfoot. They put a protection order on him. I think
Here
there's
as
some other
well.
states. Yeah, there's some other states that have put a protection order on. You know, uh, Jade Ross says, "Bye bye, Whitey. 5,000 candles in the wind for Whitey."
Yeah.
But there's been no other new reports, like you said. There's been nothing since
Nothing since-
71.
Right.
And
So
then they
it's
made it a state park in 73.
so I'm just throwing this out there. I'm pretty safe to say, like the other guy was stuck on the car. I'm kind of stuck on this book deal. I'm pretty sure that there is no books on this guy.
No, I don't think there is.
Thank God. I wouldn't think there'd be enough information to make it into a book.
Tell you what, you fill some time. I'll see if there's a book on Amazon.
No, don't do that. Hell no. Me and Killing Time are not the best of friends right now. Could there possibly, honestly,
I know that it was
Um, yeah.
covered on Mountain Monsters, I think it was.
No, serious. Those guys.
I think it was. Um,
I
no,
mean,
there is no book on the White River Monster. There is no required reading for today.
Thank God. But I was gonna say though, with all the different sightings and maybe misidentifications.
Oh,
Yes,
I'm
there
sorry.
is. Jade says.
Jade Raw. It's not
Oh,
on Amazon.
damn it! Then it's not a bestseller. With all the sightings and
You realize if we
misidentifications.
were,
Go ahead.
one of these days we're gonna have to schedule things out. I'm worried about posting the link. um, is that because of the fact that we would probably buy it and read it?
It's safe to say I wouldn't read it or buy it.
It is an uncomfortable adaptation.
Now the
Then I don't.
intrigue sets
If
in.
it's uncomfortable, I don't think it would be about the actual White River Monster at that point. Again, this is one of those stories that I can't.
You can't what?
I can't. It's a good story. I mean, normally I'm open to a lot of things. I can't. I can't back this one. I say this is a good story. And I'm going to leave it at that. It was a good story to hear when you're growing up. It's we're starting out with one that even I'm not going to be able to get behind and back it. Apparently it is a comic book. White River Monster #2 cover. And it says it's mature, and it's $3.99 plus $5.99 shipping on eBay.
Oh my God! So it's a book, all right. It's a comic book. I love it.
Apparently, there's two of them.
No,
I don't know. Hopefully, it's not a series of comic books. I still don't think I'm gonna. Yeah, there looks like a couple on eBay. Um, it says it's a mature comic book, so I don't want to chance that one because, yeah, that might be some really weird things, and we've already seen enough weird things this weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Weekend was rough. We don't blame you there, Jade. We're not gonna look
Yeah,
either.
Jade says I'm sure not going to be the one to look. I'm gonna let that one kind of fade off and die, and we're gonna move on. We've got 10 minutes remaining to fill. I don't even
Tammy says
stripper
stripper
fish.
fish. uh,
Well, that does
I
define
mean,
weekends.
he is flanking away, so hey, he's stripping.
I personally, I'm gonna say it was an alligator gar. It got too old. It died of old age eventually. It sank to the bottom of that eddy. Um, is it a good way to carry on a local legend? Sure. Colorado
Yeah,
State Park. It's a local legend. It's like our Bandage Man, local legend.
I wouldn't necessarily make it a state park due to that, but I agree with you that alligator gar. Yeah.
Definitely not a giant turtle.
No.
A turtle is box shape. It's round. It's not long.
Exactly.
So I don't know where they're getting. Yeah, but again, this is one of those cool little stories that Grandma used to tell us when we were little kids, and we'd gather around in front of her, and she'd tell us all the stories about Arkansas. Don't go whistling at night. Don't put your feet in the White River. Whitey will get you. And we'll talk about more of the Arkansas cryptids in the next coming weeks. And then I'm sure we'll have something really cool for Halloween. Maybe we'll dip out of Arkansas.
Just for a night.
Just for tonight. Just for the end, we'll dip out of Arkansas. Because Arkansas has a lot of stories. I mean, they've got their Bigfoot. They're called the Wood Buggers. And we've discussed Bigfoot before, so I mean, it would just be the same thing. It's just we change the name and just repeat what we've already said.
Right. For sure.
But that is a White River monster.
We just report it.
Not to
Let
be
you
confused.
decide. There's no
Not to be
confusion.
confused.
No confusion.
With this thing.
Hey! Dude, seriously? Seriously? Oh! Damn, get that thing off the screen. Oh, damn. Oh.
Sheep Squatch makes an uninvited appearance. Sheep Squatch says, I did not forget
Damn
about you,
you.
James. Because
And
we
there
can't
it
keep
is.
out of
That
the
tops
chaos.
off the weekend. Hey,
That tops
we're
off
good
the
at, right?
entire weekend. For those people that have actually stuck with us for the last little bit, we do an Old Town Ghost Walk on the weekends until the end of October. So it's surprising we're actually alive tonight.
Right.
Friday night's tour was off the rails. It was chaos. Chaos
Oh, my
ensued
God.
right from the get-go. We had a great crowd. They were very much into it. They wanted to hear every gory detail of everything.
Dude, I kind of wish we would have had Friday night as last night. That would have really topped off the weekend.
Well, last night's crew was very good. They were very entertaining.
Absolutely.
The Freddy Krueger at the Klondike doing his little dance Friday night. That kind of took everybody by
Surprise.
surprise.
Then
Now
you
the
got
interesting thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the freak show.
Well, you had the stripper Freddy.
Well, yeah, because he. For the people at home, so we're standing in front of the Klondike. I'm talking about the windows and the ghosts that are in there. And as I'm pointing out windows, oh yeah, this room is 220. There's a little boy spirit, and one of the ladies in our group looks up and goes, "Oh my God!" And we all turn, and there's Freddy Krueger standing in the window waving at us. And we're kind of stop. We're looking at it for a little bit, and then we go back about our tour, and then someone goes, "Oh my God, he's back!" And we look, and he's got no shirt on, something over his head, and he's doing like a little ghost dance. Yeah, it was interesting. It was chaos. We didn't tell the rest of the group that this is chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It is chaos 24/7.
Yeah.
But that is us. That is our podcast. And as we always say, if you want to watch a good podcast with some good people who actually have decent information, go to our friends Wandering Spirits. I'll put that up real quick.
Yeah, let's give them some love.
So give them some love. They are some great people. Wandering Spirits, PacificNorthwest.com. They
We need
have
to-
they have a great show. They like to say we have a great show too, and I say no, we're chaos. We come up with White River Monster and Sheep Squatch and weird things that nobody's ever heard about. You guys are talking about historical missions and the Mary Hill Museum and the Pittock Mansion and
all
you know.
fabulous stuff too.
Fabulous stuff. We come up with the White River Monster, Sheep Squatch.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
all.
one of these days we'll actually do Bat Boy just because.
No.
That'll be the end 10 minutes of a show. Even though he's a West Virginia thing. That's what we should have done our last one is the last 10 minutes of sheep. Well, probably could have put Bat Boy in the last 20 minutes of Sheep Squatch. All right, here's Sheep Squatch, and then Bat Boy, and then we're gone. Is Bat Boy the new crop circle? Yes.
No.
Bat Boy is the new crop circle. We're up on 58 minutes.
We definitely do need to get one of the spirits back on as co-hosts again. Yes, co-hosts.
Yes, we do. Well, we thank everyone for sticking with the chaos, sticking with the insanity. Next week, I don't know what we're doing. It's another Cryptid of Arkansas. So more chaos, more insanity.
Come on, Jack never run out of Jack and Coke.
Skull, everyone. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.